All right, there we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 8th of January 2026, and I'm going to be honest with you, it feels like it's already December of 2026. 2025 was a rough year. When I say rough, I really mean like so much happened, and it genuinely felt like an entire lifetime's worth of stuff that just happened in 1 year. Like Donald Trump just hit the ground running. It was absolutely insane. And then of course watching the world governments just scrambling to try and keep up. I think it shows you. This is just sort of an aside. This isn't what the video or the live stream is about today, but it shows you the difference between businessmen and politicians pretty much across the board. No matter which country you go to, no matter who becomes the president of whichever nation, what you usually find is the president comes in, and then for like the first year almost nothing happens. Like they talk a lot and they're sort of busy with promising they're going to be doing this stuff, and then usually like by the second year is when you start to see some programs roll out, and maybe they're trying something this way or trying something that way, but nothing really happens. In business, of course, you don't have that luxury. If you've ever been part of a company that got a new COO or a new CEO, you will know that as soon as that guy hits the ground, it's go time, right? You cannot slow down because, well, they brought you in for a reason. There's problems that need to be solved, and you have to solve those problems as quickly as possible. So Donald Trump, and I think JD Vance actually spoke about this, where they asked him what's it like working with Donald Trump, and he said he's never seen anyone work that hard and just be able to focus on that much stuff, just constantly busy focusing on different stuff. And I don't think it's because Trump is necessarily something special. I think that's just because JD Vance has never actually worked in a business environment. He's never really met a lot of business people. By the way, welcome to everyone that just came in. Really happy to have you guys here. But yeah, so it just feels like so much has already happened, and it's only a year. It's only been a year, and then this year it's only been 8 days, and it feels like, well, like, what the hell is going on? It's just every single day there's so much happening, and a lot of it is sort of left over. So let's start with something that confuses me. I don't know how long tonight's stream is going to be. Maybe like half an hour, maybe an hour. I'll try and do at least an hour, even if it's just answering some questions and stuff. Because I don't see the point of just doing a half an hour stream. Then I may as well just make a video, right? So I'll probably do at least an hour. But what I want to talk about isn't going to be that long, I don't think. Uh, let's start with something that is just confusing. Uh, the ANC and their relationship with the South African Communist Party. Now, I'm not going to step on Willem's toes here because Willem Petzer actually did an entire video on this, and I haven't watched his video yet, but I've seen some of his posts on X, so I'm assuming he's covered most of it in his video already. But Cyril Ramaphosa, and it's not just earlier this week, because earlier this week, Cyril Ramaphosa upset the South African Communist Party, and the South African Communist Party was like, "How dare you?" And Cyril was like, "Oh, my bad. I won't do it again." But it's not just this week. It's like for the last decade, really. When the South African Communist Party says jump, the ANC says how high. Just always. They do not question what the South African Communist Party says. This is a party that, since they've gone out and started running for elections, they've never even been able to get a single percentage of the vote. Like, not even 1% of people in South Africa actually vote for the South African Communist Party. And very, very specifically today, I've been enjoying Willem Petzer's X account, very much so. Sadly, I'm not in Pretoria, but I would have loved to be in Pretoria right now, because I actually used to live about 2 blocks away from the American Embassy. I remember on nights going to Hatfield Square. This was when Hatfield Square was still the place where all of the students hung out. We would go to Hatfield Square, and oftentimes we would walk by way of the American embassy. And once, is this an inappropriate story? No, nothing really happened, and I think the statute of limitations have already gone on this one. But one night, a few of my friends decided that they're gonna walk by way of the embassy, and one of them got this idea. Don't know why, but he got this idea. They have these on the outside of the embassy. They have these pot plants with like little trees in them. And one of my friends had this idea, let's take the pot with the tree in it. Let's just take it. This is going to be funny. Because there's no one there. It looks completely like deserted. And so they park with the bakkie outside the embassy. And as they're starting to lift this thing, the next moment, armed guards come running out of this building that looked deserted. It looked like there's no one there. It's nighttime. You just have these armed guards that came running out, guns pointed at them, saying, leave that alone, drop it now. And I think they figured out that these were just kids doing stupid shit. So they just say, leave, just get away. So that's a funny story of my time living very close to the American embassy. But anyways, the SACP had this plan. They're going to march to the embassy. The SACP promises that this is going to be the largest protest that South Africa's ever seen. Because remember, the ANC speaks on behalf of the people of South Africa, right? The ANC speaks on behalf of the people of South Africa. This is what Cyril constantly says. We. Like, he always likes to go, we. And I always think, we who? You're not speaking for we, you're speaking for you and for the ANC. Stop speaking for us because you're making things bad. But anyway, so they're going to go protest. And Willem Petzer went to the protest. Guys, I don't know how many of you saw Willem's posts, but if there were 300 people there, I would actually be surprised. Like, I would actually be surprised if there were 300 people at this protest. At least from all of the videos that I've seen. It's not just Willem's videos. I've seen a bunch of other videos as well. There's no one there. Like, this is the big communist march to Pretoria's, to the Embassy of America. 300 people rock up. And even the chants that they sing, it's like, they don't even seem like they want to be there. It seems like the people who's there just really doesn't even want to be there. This is just something to do, you know? That's what it seemed like. And I have to just relay this because I actually felt so sorry for this girl. Because I think Willem and his team asked this girl, why are you here? And she was like, oh, we're marching to free the president. And Willem and his team's like, but like, where is he? And her answer is in here in the prison. And she's pointing at the Embassy of America, calling it a prison. And it's just sort of like, wait, you clearly don't know why you're here, do you? And my immediate thought was, these are the people that vote for the ANC and keep them in power. These are the people that is the reason for all of our suffering. And then as I was typing it, because I was actually retweeting this, and I was going, these are the people that are voting and keeping us in all of this mess. My heart just suddenly broke when I realized she's as much a victim as we all are. It's not her fault that she goes through school in an education system that is so broken that even getting your matric certificate means absolutely bugger all. But that's not her fault. From her perspective, she probably did go to school. She probably did finish school. She probably got her matric certificate. She's just incapable of doing anything. I have family members who is in the education system, and I will tell you, they are baffled. And I mean baffled at some of the kids that make it to matric, where they just look at it and they go, wait, how are you in matric? How in the hell is that happening? You know, by the way, guys, I'm seeing all of your super chats and stuff, and I really appreciate you. I will say thank you as soon as I've finished all my thoughts, because I get distracted quickly. I mean, it's a mess. I will just literally forget what I was about to say. And I don't have notes. I should learn how to do notes, but I never have notes. I like to just talk. And so it gets terrible. But yeah, so this girl has this just this terrible moment where you can see she doesn't know what's going on. She was told that there's a man in prison and he shouldn't be in prison, and she thought, well, we're marching to the prison to get him out. Never mind the fact that there's a big sign that says American Embassy. And embassies are famously not prisons, but hey, well, what are you going to do, right? So that was sort of a sad thing to see. But more importantly, and this is the thing that confuses me, why does the ANC listen to the South African Communist Party? What does that party have on the ANC? It's quite clear that Joe Slovo is no longer around. It's quite clear that this party, whatever relevance they may once have had, that's gone, right? No one cares about this party at all. But then you have to start extrapolating even more, and you have to ask yourself, okay, wait a second. Why are we standing with Venezuela and Iran and, Cuba? If less than 300 people rock up for a protest to the American embassy, this is the big moment of the South African Communist Party and the ANC. If less than 300 people actually rock up, clearly this isn't what the South African people want, right? This isn't what the South African people even voted for. And again, we just come back to this baffling question: what exactly does the SACP, the Venezuelans, the Cubans, and the Iranians have on the ANC? Yesterday, we went through a number of speculations, let's call it that. So you can go watch that stream if you want me to get a bit deeper into what I think is actually going on here. So Digital, I wasn't part of the group that wanted to steal the pot plants. But just to be clear, this was after a night at Hatfield Square. So no one there was sober-minded and thinking clearly. I imagine the only reason I wasn't there was because I was passed out in the fountain at my at the flat that I was renting at the time. There was I lived in this flat complex, this sort of apartment complex, and we lived on the ground floor in one of these flats. It was me and two of my friends in a 2-bedroom apartment, but it was cheap, and we wanted to live together because it was close to the square. And in the middle of this sort of building that goes sort of like a U shape, there's this giant fountain, and there's massive signs saying "Do not swim in the fountain." And whenever we got drunk, we swam in the fountain. This was our, this was the jacuzzi. So I was probably passed out on that. That's the only reason I wasn't a part of that. But this was back in my drinking days. I was still young. I was still in college or university. So I think I was allowed to be stupid. These days, like thinking back at that life, I can't imagine doing that again. I cannot imagine that. Nowadays, now that I'm 40, if it hits 8 o'clock, I'm already looking at my watch going, it's about time I get out of here. This party has run its course. And I may have only arrived at 7 o'clock, but I'm already ready to go. I want to be in bed by about 9. So I wouldn't do well with the university life at this age. But okay, so I'm not going to get into the speculations about what is actually happening in America or with the ANC and the SACP and the Venezuelans, and it's absolutely crazy. There's something very scary that is starting to come down the pipeline. Now, I'm going to share two pieces of news with you guys. They're sort of related, but you have to think like a communist. So I want all of you to put your mind into the perspective of communists. Now, one thing that communists do really well is playing around with the meaning of words, to the point where a communist will look you dead in the eye and they'll say something and you'll hear the word, but that word and the way they use it doesn't actually mean what you know it to mean. This is masterful from communists. So there's a bill that was already introduced in 2023, but it has just gone out for public comment. The bill is about hate crimes, very specifically hate speech. Now, most of the bill is, I would say, fairly bog standard stuff. It's not like it really expands a lot. It does more of what South Africa's law has always done, where the idea of hate speech lies in the person listening to the speech. So if that person felt hurt, they could view that as hate speech, and then you would be guilty of hate speech. What this bill now does is it actually makes it a crime. So if you commit hate speech, you didn't just commit a misdemeanor, that's a felony, right? So now jail time is 100% on the board or on the table. That's what this bill is going to do. The language is also sort of formulated in such a way that they can pretty much do whatever they want and call it hate speech, because it all depends on who hears it and not necessarily on what you meant when you said it. So that's sort of something that really should scare a lot of people. But there's one line in this that immediately made me stop and think, whoa, that's dangerous. It also criminalizes any speech that may harm the social cohesion. I'll repeat that. Any speech that may harm social cohesion will now be a criminal offense. Ons Afrikaans asseblief, daai een keer was so cute. Lief vriend, ek weet nie wat wil jy met ek sê in Afrikaans nie, maar ek meen, nie gaan dit. Ek dink meeste ouens op die oomblik in chat verstaan heel moontlik Afrikaans. So ek dink nie eers dis weird vir mense as ek nou op die oomblik Afrikaans praat nie. Waar in die verlede as ek Afrikaans gepraat het, sou dit 'n groter probleem gewees het. So by the way, let me go back to English, because I know for a fact that we have some people from America and Europe here. Want to give a big shout out to everyone that is super chatting and giving money and all that. Love you. I will say officially thank you as soon as I finish these thoughts. I just want to get this out, and then I can actually thank you guys properly. I don't want to rush things. But okay, so see, this is what I mean. I shouldn't look at chat, because every single time I look at chat, I lose my train of thought. Oh, yes. Speech that harms social cohesion. Ladies and gentlemen, do you understand how vast that is? If we're talking about speech that harms social cohesion, let's just quickly do this. If you go on X and you criticize the ANC, that could be seen as speech that harms social cohesion, and therefore you are now a criminal. Because the ANC could argue, we are the ones running the country. When you criticize us, you harm our ability to actually run the country. Therefore, you're harming you're harming social cohesion. But it actually gets a little bit worse, because Fikile Mbalula, I think it was Fikile, it may have been Gweri Mantashe, but I think it was Fikile Mbalula who said, anyone who could, and this is why I said I have two stories for you, and they're very much related. Anyone who criticizes BEE is actually just a white supremacist. That was Fikile Mbalula's words. This is the government that is now passing anti-speech laws, saying that if you criticize BEE, then you are a white supremacist. You are supportive of white supremacy and racism. Under the new law, you could effectively go to jail for having an opinion on the transformational redress race laws of this country. Just by calling them race laws, you could effectively be dealing in hate speech. And you could be charged and you could go to jail for this. This is the bill that is currently being sort of opened up to the public so that the public can give their 2 cents on it. And then there's literally this morning, this dropped. And this does actually scare me, and I think this is going to scare a lot of you as well. Cyril Ramaphosa earlier this morning, because the ANC is celebrating the 114th year of them causing havoc in South Africa, and Cyril Ramaphosa was asked about. Now we should do a bit of preamble here. I need to explain a couple of things. Roughly 2.5 months ago, after Donald Trump started calling out South Africa, a narrative popped up. At first, I thought this was curious. And then the more I started seeing this narrative pop up, and very specifically when I started seeing news articles being written by it, News 24 dropped a couple of articles on this, Daily Maverick dropped a couple of articles on this, pretty much EWN, all of them dropped these articles, floating the idea that organizations going to America to complain about race laws and redress laws and all the rest of it might actually be treason. So they might actually be traitors to South Africa. I first want to point out that if we're going to play by those rules, we should kill every member of the ANC because they were traitors when they went to every country that would house them during the apartheid era. So, okay, fine. We can criminalize AfriForum and Solidarity and all the rest of them, but then we should also kill you. Let's bring back capital punishment, get Cyril and all of his mates that went to every other country during apartheid and kill them. Because, hey, this is treason. You shouldn't be speaking to other countries. You shouldn't be complaining about other countries. But anyway, so I started seeing all of these posts and news articles being written by it. And I constantly kept thinking, this feels very rehearsed. It feels very coordinated. It feels like all of them sort of reached the same conclusion around the same time to start pushing this narrative. Then you take the words from Fikile Mbalula that basically says, if you criticize transformational laws, then you are a racist and a white supremacist, and you're defending racism and white supremacy. When you start to put these together, this is going to make a lot of sense to you. Ramaphosa, when he was asked about how he feels about AfriForum and Solidarity's actions and whether or not he thinks that they rise to the level of treason, Ramaphosa had the following to say: "We continue to examine all matters very carefully and with due diligence and due process. We are not a type of government that acts outside due process. We act in terms of what the law process requires. So all those matters will be addressed." What Cyril is saying here, and what people should hear here, isn't that the ANC actually acts within the law, because they don't. The ANC acts in whichever way they want. But what the ANC are absolute masters of is creating the narrative in the public sphere before they act. So you'll notice that the ANC never just acts. The ANC likes to sort of create the narrative first, and then they take action. Because that way they can say, we're acting on behalf of the people. We are just a party for the people. End of discussion. And I think that's what's currently going on here. We will soon see legislation being introduced. I'm assuming within the next few months, there will be legislation introduced into the South African system for comment that will effectively make it illegal for any South African to complain to the rest of the world about what is actually happening in the country. This is dictatorship level stuff, right? This is how dictators act. But of course, the ANC is getting desperate. Their numbers aren't looking too good. It does look like they're about to lose control of the elections. And I think very specifically, the the ANC will not relent power. This is the one thing that I think people need to understand. Liberation movements, revolutionary movements, do not relinquish power. They don't give it away. They don't lose power. That's just not how it works. That's why every single country in Africa that has had a liberation movement turned into a dictatorship. Because liberation movements do not ever stop liberating. If the people aren't voting for the liberation movement, it's just because they haven't liberated them hard enough. And so they'll eventually just take that power, because that's how it works. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that we are going to see the ANC effectively not necessarily steal the next election, but maybe not even allow it. They'll find some kind of loophole, some legal loophole that allows them to effectively just not have the next election. That's at least my thinking on it. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. That was the news that I wanted to share with you guys. A little bit of confusion. I mean, a lot of worry, because I think a lot of people misunderstand the complaints. You know, you see this stuff all the time on X where people go, "Oh, yeah, you're no patriot," right? I constantly get called a traitor to South Africa because apparently I'm not patriotic. And my answer to anyone that thinks I should love the country that I am in, and if I don't, then I should leave. To you, I will answer, why didn't you follow your advice during apartheid? If you should love the country that you are in or leave if you don't like it, why didn't you do that during apartheid? I mean, if those are the rules that we're playing by, then why didn't you just leave? No one invited you here. You should have just left. Of course, you didn't do that, and I would never ask you to do that. You looked at a system and you said, this is wrong, and you said, I want to change this system. And I applaud you for that. Absolutely. Like there's nothing wrong with looking at a system and saying, this is wrong. I don't agree with it. What I don't understand is why you think white people should act any differently. When we see a system that is clearly against us, when we see a system that has been purposefully designed to exclude us, we're just supposed to accept that. So we shouldn't be complaining. We should accept that this is just the way the world works now. I'm sorry. I don't understand your logic. Your logic is rejected at this point. If you can explain it to me, I'm happy to listen. I still maintain that this isn't a problem of white versus black. And I know that this upsets a bunch of people. I have friends and people quite close to me who are not necessarily so open-minded, I guess you could say. But I don't believe that this is a battle between white and black. I believe that this is a battle between good and evil. I believe that this is a battle between those who wish to be free and those who wish to be those who wish to control others. And I think people are going to be surprised when the hammer comes down how many black people are going to stand with the side that wants to be free and how many white people are going to stand with the dictators and the communists. And for anyone that's saying, well, this is a battle between white and black, are you telling me that you're standing with Peter Kriel or with what's the asshole's name with the glasses, or Kraukamp? Pete Kraukamp? Are you Max de Pree? If it is white and black, then those are your friends, and I'm assuming Thomas Sowell isn't. I mean, if I could be honest, and I could ask you an honest question, if you are one of those people that think this is a battle between white and black, who would you rather live next door to? Would you rather have Max de Pree be your next door neighbor, or Thomas Sowell? Who would you rather live next door to? Because I can tell you right now, Thomas Sowell is one of my heroes. I genuinely believe he's probably one of the smartest men, economically speaking at least, of the 21st century. I would much rather live next to Thomas Sowell than ever setting foot near Peter Kriel. So, I just don't agree that it is a white and black battle. I think it's a battle that's going to come down to those who want to be free and those who don't want people to be free. So yeah, that's sort of my opinion. Again, I welcome everyone's opinion on this stuff, and as long as you can remain civil, I'm not going to block or ban you from my chat. I'm not going to block or ban your messages, because I do believe that the only way we can move forward is if we're allowed to speak. So as long as you can remain civil and express yourself at least in a way that makes sense and allows other people to be able to communicate with you, I'm happy to have you here, and I'm happy to have the debate no matter what. And Odin, I realize it's not a fair debate because he is American and he is also one of the greatest economists that has ever lived, even greater than Milton Friedman, who used to be my favorite economist. I could probably talk about Vusi as well. Like, would you rather live next door to Peter Kriel or Vusi? I can't pronounce his surname. But you guys know the guy that goes around public speaking. He has all these sort of events where he speaks and motivates people and all the rest of it. I mean, would you rather live next door to him or to Peter Kriel? Again, I think most people are going to say, no, Vusi's fine, right? So proving to you that this isn't a racial thing. This is a bandit. Yeah, sorry. So I have gentle and lowly, respectable sins, the church, the gospel made visible. I brought these books up from downstairs. I was busy reading them downstairs, and I brought them up, and I just haven't put them in my bookcase yet. So 1984 is still here. It's just currently under a bunch of other books. I'll eventually get them into the bookcase, and then you'll be able to see 1984 again. But for now, those books are just lying there because I was busy reading them downstairs. But okay, so let's just quickly get into it because a lot of you have given me money, and I really appreciate you for that. Thank you so much to all of you that just give me money. You guys are insane. But Miroslav, thank you so much for the €5. I really appreciate you. When the Communist Party of ZA thinks it can weaponize 16 people against the USA, revolutionary maths at its finest. Yes. I don't necessarily even think it's that. I genuinely think that the ANC are just no longer capable of reading the room. I think because the world coddled the ANC for such a long time, because the ANC was able to basically get away with everything, the people who are currently in charge of the ANC, they're no longer the intellectual superweights, right? They're no longer the guys that, the Thabo Mbekis or the Joe Slovos, the guys that were actual intellectual juggernauts. Whether you agree or disagree, these guys actually had ideas that they were putting forward. The ideas were wrong, but they were still ideas. The current ANC government has no ideas. That is why, literally before we started this stream, I was watching this video of Cyril Ramaphosa talking about how they're renewing. The ANC is renewing. And he's talking about how they're taking local government elections far more seriously now. And they have this plan that they're going to fix local government. And the way he speaks and the things he mentioned on how they're going to fix local government, it's not a plan. A plan, right, involves having a goal. So you state a goal. We want to fix service delivery of water. A plan is how you get there, explaining step by step all of the ways in which you're finally going to fix water. The ANC doesn't have plans. They just have goals. This is the problem with all of these communist 5-year plans. They're not plans. They're just dreams. And that's all the ANC currently has left. Because the ANC actually, for all of its history, was never the intellectual mind behind their movement. So most of the ANC's sort of playbook post-1994 comes from Joe Slovo. Prior to that, it was actually the Soviet Union in Russia that designed and formulated all of the battle plans for the ANC. So what you're currently seeing, Cyril Ramaphosa, Fikile Mbalula, Gwedi Mantashe, these are dumb foot soldiers of the revolution who just happen to run it now. Because the old guard is dead, and the old guard, the one thing communists seemingly can't do, which happens to be the thing that separates us from monkeys, is the ability to teach other people how to take up the mantle. The ANC clearly doesn't understand this concept, and so they never actually taught the young generation how to actually take over. And that just, yeah, it is what it is. But that's sort of the problem that we have right now. Chris Swanepoel, thank you so much for the 35 Rand donation. Truly appreciate you. CR, thank you so much for the 50 Rand donation. Really appreciate you. And then the Upper Room TV with the 35 Rand. Really appreciate you. 3 cheers for Thomas Sowell, one of the greatest thinkers of our lifetime. The Upper Room, 100% agreement with you. 100%. I may be wrong, but I do think that there has ever been a government that was former freedom fighters that has been successful. Am I right? Okay, so Steve, if you look at the history of South Africa, of Africa, because liberation movements have mostly just been an African thing. If you look at Africa, there's a common saying: a nation can only be free once it has been liberated from its liberators. Now, at first hearing it, you will think, oh, so South Africa just needs another liberation. This saying literally is based on Africa. But effectively I can't remember the guy who did it, but he studied African revolutions for, I think, something like 200 years. He studied African revolutions. Well, he didn't live for 200 years. We're not talking about someone who lived in the Old Testament, but he took 200 years of African history and he studied it. And what he effectively came up with, because think about this, a nation will only ever be free once it has been liberated from its liberators. But if you need liberation from your liberators, that means you have new liberators. So the new liberators becomes those who enslave you. What the point he was making is Africa will never be free. That was his point. Africa will just forever be caught between liberators and liberation movements. Because every single time you have a liberation movement get power, they rule until the next liberation movement takes power. And there's a reason for that. The reason is the Soviets masterfully ingrained into the African mind the concept of communism. The idea that the state can take care of the people, the idea, and really, this is a. Okay, I'm about to say something very controversial. I'm about to get very controversial here, boys. Um, how do I say this? Okay. Democracy isn't a universal concept, nor can it ever be a universal concept. Not all cultures are equal. Not all cultures are the same. This is just facts. Culture isn't static. So you can have a culture that was once really good go really bad. So that can happen. You can have regression in terms of culture. But you can also have cultures that are generally considered really bad that becomes incredibly good. Um, you can look at former Soviet nations where their culture used to be very communist. And after communism, they actually fixed themselves, right? And they got themselves out of that way of thinking. So, this idea that all cultures are somehow equal, this is nonsense. There are better and worse cultures out there. I'll go so far as to say there are certain European cultures that I cannot stand. And I need to be super clear on this. I am not talking about the individual people who belong to that culture. I'm not talking about the individual people who belong to that culture. I'm talking about the group as a whole. The culture, as in the cultural decision making, the memory of that culture. Because there are individual Germans that I absolutely love. I myself am German, right? My family arrived from Germany, Saxony, Germany, 1838. Saxony, Germany, came here for the first time. I'm German, right? My grandmother arrived in 1901 from Saxony, Germany. So I am as German as they come. But I will never live in Germany, and I cannot stand the German culture. Their bread is great, their beer is great, all of their festivals are great. Their politics suck. Their mindset, this idea that the government should just take care of us, that we should have this socialist utopia, and there's no problem with Islamists flowing over our borders. I cannot stand that mindset. I want nothing to do with the people that adhere to that. And so I view German culture as inferior. I view it as an inferior culture. Does that mean that all Germans are terrible? Hell no. I have phenomenal German friends, and I love each of them, and they hate what their culture has turned into, right? They despise what their culture has become. They despise the way their culture thinks now. But sadly, that is just the majority of people there seem to be thinking that way. And so that sort of shows you cultures aren't, they're not static. They can move, they can change, they can adapt, they can become better or worse, dependent on. But cultures are not equal and cultures are not the same. Communism, I think we can all agree, is terrible, right? Communism is really bad. Except in China. communism in China works. The Chinese mind seems to not really care that much. The Chinese mind is perfectly happy with communism because for all of Chinese history, they have had emperors that did pretty much what the CCP does. So, from the Chinese perspective, collectivist thinking isn't a problem. The African mind is very similar to that. You see, in Africa, they have this concept called Ubuntu. Now, Ubuntu, for all of the leftist soy boys, sound like such a beautiful thing, right? It sounds like such a beautiful concept, Ubuntu. I am because we are, right? I think that's the right way to say it. It effectively means your value comes from we. The individual has no value. The value is derived from the group. That's the idea of Ubuntu. I cannot think of something more sickening. Like genuinely, as a world philosophy, that is the worst philosophy I've ever heard in my life. I have value regardless of the group. I have value because I live, because I have a mind, and because I was created by God in His image. That's where my value comes from. The group's value is of no concern to me. I matter because I exist. Africa's mindset is I only matter because we matter. This means, effectively, under Ubuntu, I could kill you if killing you keeps us safe. Even if you're not actually trying to kill us. But if you're saying stuff that makes us unhappy, I can kill you, and us is still more important because us is more important than you. I cannot think of a sicker thing in my life. Like, genuinely, that is the most depraved crap I've ever heard in my life. But it is perfectly communist. It is perfectly communist. And this does make me sometimes wonder, can Africa be democratic? And I don't ask this as a sort of as a slight against Africans or against African culture in any way, shape, or form. I'm just not sure if democracy on the whole is something that will ever really work in Africa. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like no matter what you do, you will always have Africans that just reject democracy. They reject the idea of voting on principle. They reject the idea of voting on merit rather than along some racial line or some idea of what can you do for me? Just constantly standing with their hands outstretched, going give, give, give. Right? I don't see the evidence of that anywhere. And I'm not sure that is something that you can just force. There's a way to fix it, but that takes time. And I'm not sure if people will actually accept that. Because the way you fix it and the way that we should have fixed it is through education. You educate people, and that automatically solves a lot of the other problems. As soon as people are educated, you fix so much of the other issues, just sort of automatically. So we should have done that, and we didn't. Yeah, I don't know. I genuinely don't know what's going to happen in South Africa, but that's why I think the at some point, those who are on the side of light, those who are on the side of good, is going to stand up in this country, and it's not going to be racial. It's going to be ideological. It's going to be those people who are conservative, who care about conservative Christian values, And by that, I don't mean Christians in general. I don't just mean Christians. I'm sure that there are going to be plenty of atheists who line up with the Christian conservatives and say, look, I might not agree with you on your religious stuff, but I agree with almost everything else. So just let me fight. Let me just join this because I don't want that. And it's going to be an amalgamation of a group that just says, no, thank you to your collectivist nonsense. We reject it. We don't want it. Miroslav, thank you so much for the €2, dude. Really appreciate you. Too many doctors and engineers. Europe is waking up. I hope so. I have a very good friend who's French. She's a historian in France. That's actually how most of our conversations go. We talk about history in France. But I know France is going through a bit of an uprising. The young people are going ever more conservative, ever more Christian. So maybe something can happen there. And then Quinn and Everyman, how you doing, bro? Thanks for the $5. Really appreciate you. Greetings from Tennessee, USA. We should DM. Quinn, you're welcome to DM me either on Discord or on X. Either one is fine. I'm not always fast at replying, but I do eventually reply. So yeah, if you guys want to talk to me, if any of you want to talk to me, you're welcome to DM me on X or on Discord. Either one is fine. Just know you're probably going to wait a bit before I reply because it's just me. I don't have editors. I don't have researchers. I am constantly just researching in order to figure out what is happening in this country. So yeah, it takes a bit. It takes a bit. I've recently come to the conclusion that what type of government should run society depends on the general IQ of the people in that society. Dude, not necessarily. Not necessarily. The general IQ of the Chinese is ridiculously high, and yet they are all communists. So yeah, I don't think it's an IQ thing. I think it has to do with culture. It just has to do with that cultural memory. How do you think about the world? You know? Byron Banger, how you doing, bro? Thanks for the $5. Really appreciate you, sir. Greetings from NYC. That Commie Maduro is here. Dude, oh crap, Maduro. Well, I can only say, I don't know how many of you saw this, but Maduro went on stage and said South Africa is the model for New York City. And all I can say to all of the New Yorkers, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. You guys can get ready for a lot of unemployment, a lot of youth unemployment, a lot of murder, a lot of robbing, a lot of raping, a lot of lawlessness, a lot of suffering, and very little economic growth. If, of course, South Africa is the model that this swine wants to follow. To be fair, Byron, on a very serious note, Mamdani is... Oh, you're going to hate me so much, especially since you just gave me money. And I am so sorry that I'm taking your money and I'm saying this. But I am actually kind of glad that Mamdani won the election in New York City. Because if there's one thing that seems to work to teach communists the realities of communism, it's to suffer the realities of communism. That seems to do the trick. Everyone's a communist until they have to eat their own dog in order to survive. Then suddenly they realize, oh, wait, this is bullshit. This is some... I get the friend... I have a friend who we were telling him the story, and as I'm telling him the story, he just looks at me and he goes, "Dis 'n grondfokkery," which is not nice, and you shouldn't swear like that. But directly translated, it would be it's a fucking around. That's sort of the closest that I can do uh, um, to a direct translation of it. But yeah, it's sort of you first have to feel it, and you have to experience it before you learn from it. Yeah, you could say FOFA. You could say FOFA. But this is what communists in America will have to learn. So I'm glad that Mamdani is there because I think there's a lot of white liberals that are about to experience the true hell of communism. They're about to experience just how bad communist ideas actually are because there's not a single one of the ideas that Mamdani put forward that isn't going to destroy New York City. If you own property in New York City, of course, oh boy, you're about to become very rich. You're about to become very rich. So if you already own property, well done. Well done on becoming a multi-millionaire. NYC does not ask who the bones for because it bones for thee. Kom jy nie so lekker as jy honger en werkloos is nie, né? No, so digital, definitely not. New York will be my new comedy channel. It's so sad though, because for a very long time, living in New York was actually one of my dreams. Not forever, but I did want to go to New York and live there for maybe like a year. Because it just looked like such an alive city. Like so much is going on there. My heart has always been in Texas though. If I were to ever leave South Africa, I would just go to Texas. I like the freedom. I like the cowboys. Why not? I like oil. So, can't go wrong. I'm an Afrikaans boer and I'm cooking chicken sweet corn soup and sweet and sour pork. Nice, so digital. Let's be real here. It's the Afrikaans boer is also no longer really Afrikaans boer. The other day, I was standing in my my local Chinese shop, and it's as Chinese as it gets, right? I know the guy. He came from China like 2 years ago. He now operates a Chinese takeaway, and in walks this guy that would make most boere feel ashamed. This guy is dressed as if he literally just walked out of the fields. Like he just got out of his tractor and came down to the Chinese store. And I just looked at this guy and I was like, yeah. The contrast was just, I don't know why, but it was just such an interesting contrast. You have this boer, like super boer, walking into a Chinese shop, getting himself some noodles or maybe some sushi. I don't know. But yeah, it was just funny. Oh, Byron, thank you so much for the $5, dude. Really appreciate you. Great for NYC indeed. Socialism is going to show its true colors, but commie Maduro, we'll get commie dictators anywhere in the world. Pass up. You're not wrong, Byron. You are not wrong. But the world still needs to learn the lessons of communism. Gucci Socialist, Mamdani heeft geen dag in zijn leven een normale werkdag vervuld. Lilith, you are not wrong. You are not wrong. Mamdani has not worked a day in his life. This is sort of one of my biggest issues with politics in general. Most politicians have not worked a day in their life. And yeah, for those of you that's asking about what is a boer is a farmer, but specifically the word boer actually comes from, it's sort of like a term that the English used for the Afrikaner. So the Afrikaner, the English would refer to the Afrikaner as boer, but it is the Afrikaans word for farmer. So a gaan boer means I'm going to go farm, right? That's sort of the idea. It's Texas or Florida for me. Someone asked, who was it that asked about, is SA an American colony? Macintosh Zulu. No, South Africa isn't an American colony. And I'm assuming you have a reason for why you're asking that. Um, Going to NY, I'm a Khoi descent and breed and live in South Africa long before the dinosaur. Adrian, I'm not sure. I don't think you lived here before the dinosaurs did. I mean, yes, the Khoi has lived here for a very long time, 100%. But I think the dinosaurs does predate you by some margin. Um, Dankjewel, Boerke, voor jouw respons. Lilith, it is my absolute pleasure. It is my absolute pleasure. Jy is baie welkom, Lilith. Cesius, I see you're doing the hard work of trying to police chat. No, I think there is something that might end up happening. This might be a topic for the next stream. Yeah. If nothing huge happens, our next stream we will dive into Cape Independence. My first name, yeah, I actually thought that Lilith was Flemish, but I think he or she just said Nederland. Kom weg uit Nederland. Mijn voorouders hebben Stellenbosch gebouwd. Samen met de donkere mensen uit Goed Buurschap. Wait, you're talking about Stellenbosch? Lilith, are you in South Africa? But I think the next stream, we're going to be talking about Cape Independence. Because there are some things that's happening in the world that I think a lot of people aren't paying attention to. And so we'll take on the very easy and not controversial topic at all of Cape Independence. Should the Western Cape go independent? Should it not? Tune in next time so that we can figure that out together. How's that for selling you guys on joining the next stream? You know, that's my best marketing voice. That's how I'm marketing the next stream to you guys. Just whetting your appetites for what's gonna happen next. I'm in the Cape and it should go independent. Can't wait for next stream. I'm in the Cape as well, Lee. I'm in the Cape as well. I'm in the Helderberg area, and I maintain that the Helderberg area is the most beautiful area in the world. I don't think there is a more beautiful area than Helderberg. Cape Independence, now we're talking. Geniet jou aan, Stefan. Die gym roep, maar sal weer kyk. Ja, ek het nie vandag aan gym nie. Die gym eienaar hardloop die 21 kilometer something somewhere. So dis nie heeltemal CrossFit nie, maar dis amper soos CrossFit. So ek kon nou nie vandag gaan gym nie, maar ek sal weer môre. Maar ek het gaan stap vandag en ek sê ek maar môre weer gaan stap bietjie. Ek love Blouberg, maar na 5 jaar in Nederland kan ek nie meer van SA hou nie. My brother is actually going to the Netherlands now, end of January. My brother's going to the Netherlands for 2 months. Drink coffee this morning near Life Saving Club at 7. Why didn't you come say hello? I don't think I was. Wait, where's the Life Saving Club? In Strand. You mean on the Strand beach? Yeah, I was there. There's every once in a while there's someone that stops there and goes, "Hey, I watch your videos." But yeah, you're welcome to come say hello. By the way, if you ever see me walking about, you're more than welcome to come say hello. I love meeting people and having chats because yeah, it's interesting to hear what people have to say, and it's not always something that you can. Yeah, by bootleggers. Well, I'm not at bootleggers in the mornings. But I'm a lot of mornings I'm there, thereabouts. So yeah, you're welcome to come say hello. My best friend immigrated to the Netherlands. Still upset about that. In fact, many of my friends from Secunda moved there. Byron, doxing myself. I don't. I don't really consider it doxing. I don't think South Africa quite has the same problems as you have in America. Um, Plus, I don't live anywhere near there. It's just a place that I sometimes go to. But where I live is quite a bit from there. So where I live, I'll never actually say. But in terms of where I hang out, I mean, there's quite a few people that already watch my videos that know where I go or where I hang out. So in that regard, I don't really mind it all that much. Plus, I don't think we quite have the same issues here. Um, at least in the Western Cape, we don't have the same issues. The rest of the country might be a little bit worse, but it's not quite as bad here. There are places you don't want to go, but for the most part, it's a bit better. From Croatia for Italy, Slovenia, Bulgaria. Stephen, are you keen to have some discussions on radio? Edward, which radio station? You're welcome to message me. But yeah, I don't mind. I'm open to having conversations with literally everyone. It doesn't bother me. Um, I'm more than happy to have conversations because I think it's important. I don't think we'll save the world through conversations. This is the one part I think um if Charlie Kirk's death taught me one thing, it's that there is no more debate. You cannot debate leftists. They don't have the mental capacity for debate. Here in EC is only fire everywhere though. Evening all, a bit late to join. What was the key sentence for the video topic? Oh, Dateleaf. We discussed a lot of things. A lot of things. How you doing, bro? 7 towns being closed down due to fire. Wow. Okay, that is insane. I literally saw a house burn down a week ago. No, yeah, just before New Year's. Just saw smoke. I was driving on the N2 from Cape Town and just smoke everywhere. You just stop by the house and you just see these flames. The entire house is up in flames. And I just thought, man, what a terrible New Year. What a terrible, terrible way to go into the into the new year. Person popping into live. Name, how you doing? All right, guys, I'm gonna go now. It was fun hanging out with you guys. It was fun talking to you. Thank you so much to all of you who joined for the stream, who came to say hello. I'll be back probably Monday unless something huge happens tomorrow. So look out for that. If something big happens tomorrow, we'll probably be live tomorrow night. If nothing big happens, I'll be back Monday. There'll still be videos. Don't worry about that. There will still be videos tomorrow. I will always be making videos. But yeah, Fridays will be for in case something huge stories. And then on Monday, if nothing big happens over the weekend, Monday will be us talking about Cape Independence. That's going to be fun and not at all controversial. I cannot wait for the civil conversation of Cape Independence. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to each and every one of you for coming out, hanging out with me, spending your time with me. Please, please, please take care of yourselves. Have a good evening. And if I don't see you again before the weekend, have a phenomenal weekend. And I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.